Layers are an invaluable tool. They help organize and manipulate parts of our images. Images only have one layer by default, the background layer. Let's work the layers though in Photoshop so that we can see that we can create additional layers, and we also can take advantage of the options that they provide. Layers can be created in many different ways in Photoshop. What we have here is a picture of a family, and we're trying to isolate the family themselves so that we can basically make a composite picture. We have the background selected, and we're going to move up and look at the selection itself and create an inverse. We can see that when you do an inverse selection, this obviously does the opposite of whatever was selected initially. So if the background was selected, you need to inverse the selection to select the family themselves. Now, why do we go through all of this? Because one way to make a layer is to use a selection and then to make a new layer from the selection. Once you have your selection made, you can go to the Layer menu, choose New at the very top, and do layers from a variety of different ways. I'm going to choose Layer via Copy. Visually, we don't see much on screen except that our selection is gone. Let's move over and display the Layers panel in order to see what's actually going on. I'm going to go back to my Selection tool first, and then display Layers from the right-hand side of the screen. What we can see is that we have the original background layer that every Photoshop image has, and we've now created a second layer that has just the family. Another way that a layer can be created is when you add other elements to an image. For example, if we go ahead and move to another image that's already open, which in this case is called Mountain, we can see that it currently is the only layer in this image as well. You might have noticed that when we went to the Layer menu the first time and said New, we can actually create a new layer from the background, basically duplicating the background. We'll do that as kind of a precautionary measure. That way, if we work with this layer, we aren't necessarily getting ourselves worked into a corner where we can't go back to the original. I'll call this one Mountain. Now let's see if we can bring that family into this picture. We'll go back to the family image, make sure we have the Selection tool selected, and also make sure that we have the appropriate layer selected, because you can't select content that's not on the current layer. Now what I'm going to do is simply do a little bit of drag and drop. I need to get this where I can see everything I need to. So I'm going to bring the tab down a little bit, which brings this picture into its own window, if you will. And then I'm going to select the family and drag them onto the mountain. It's a good idea to look at your cursor as you do this because we want to see the little plus sign, letting us know that we're actually making a copy of this item. I'll go ahead and minimize the family, and we can see that they are now magically in front of the beautiful mountain. More importantly, we can see that we now have a couple of layers. We have the layer for the family, as well as the layer for the mountain. Creating layers is an important skill because you will use it a lot. Sometimes layers are actually created by doing other activities. Sometimes add-ins create layers. So you need to keep an eye on your layers panel to see exactly what's going on, and then make sure that you have the proper layer selected in order to manipulate the elements